Now we get to the part where we're talking about why you should trust me. So I don't suggest that that should be your subhead. You need a benefit-driven subhead for this. As always, write it at the end, write your copy first, or if you have one that comes to mind, please include it. So you'll remember earlier in the intro video, I talked about how the about page is the whole point of the about page is to build the like, know, and trust factor. So far with the we've built the trust factor with our I believe section, and now we're going to build more of the kind of trust and the know factor. So we're going to get them to know a little bit more about your experience and why they should care about your experience. So with this bit, we really start talking about yourself a little bit more, but always framing it against what's in it for me. So keep your target audience profile person name in mind at all times. So we split this into 3 sections. The first one is where you introduce yourself, say who you are, how you help them. If you want, you can follow the formula that you wrote at the end of your target audience profile and maybe switch it up slightly, but you can kind of use that as your foundation for this. It works really well. The second section is how you personally practice what you preach. So did you start your business because you had this problem and you needed the solution? Do you have a unique process here? This is where you can kind of start to tease that in, and you will kind of go into more on that on the how I work page, but you can start to tease in your process here as well. And the third bit is how you've helped other people in the past solve your readers' problems. So that's kind of building a bit of credibility as well. It's kind of like, I know where you're at because I have helped other people solve this problem. So let me show you some examples. Tammy Spiller, who we've used a few times, you can see here, I just wanted to show you her I believe section. So she's actually finished with, I believe that no matter how you got here, you can benefit from making food your friend. So Tammy's a nutritionist. So I just wanted to show you that. And then she's kind of moved on to her like, no, trust, or why you should trust me section. She's put, here are the reasons why I'm the right person to take you on the journey. I know what it feels like. Here are my qualifications. I'm trained and experienced, and my advice is rooted in evidence. So you can see Tammy hasn't gone into loads and loads of detail here. This can be as long or as short as you feel it needs to be. Let me show you how Ben's done this. So Ben's is a little bit longer. But he's kind of introduced himself. He's talked about his past and why he does what he does based on his past experience. He's talked about his experience in the workplace because his target audience are very much kind of in that corporate world. So he's talked about why that experience has really helped shape his style of coaching. And then he talks about kind of what he does and why they should care about that. So that's an example there. And then just quickly, I will show you how Tanya, the change coach, puts it. So she came from a corporate background and now does her own business, but her target audience is very much these kind of very high flying corporates who are kind of burning out and overwhelmed. So she says, I get your overwhelm paralysis. I have lived it. So overwhelm paralysis was something that came up in the voice of customer research. As always, please use your voice of customer research here. If there are any words that you're using that actually, when you go back to your research, you're like, oh, they use this word, switch them out, make sure you're using your voice of customer research the whole time. So Tanya talks about how she spent many years in kind of consulting and how that led her to understand what her audience are going through. And again, that builds that know factor and it builds that credibility and trust factor. If you're relatively new and you don't feel like you've got that kind of experience that you can draw on or talk about, another way of doing this is just kind of talking about your accolades or your qualifications. So this is what was done here. So this is how she talks about how she's got this diploma and some of her qualifications and things like that. So that's the way Sandra did it. So there's lots of different ways, as always, to do this. But if you kind of stick to these 3 sections, it doesn't have to be War and Peace. It can be nice and succinct. Then that gives you a really nice formula to write a really strong why you should trust me section.